to Black and White Banter, you lovely ladies and gentlemen. I'm outside St James's Park again. It's just one of them weeks. I tell you what, I am putting some work into these videos more recently because I love it. I absolutely love it. If you're new around here, hello. Do us a little favour now. Whack that little like button. That'll go down the storm. But we are now into the business end. And I say the business end with the most emphasis you could ever put on business end, because last season we were chasing Champions League, but I think we all knew that we were there or thereabouts for European football. This season, it's looking good, which is remarkable. It's remarkable. I'm going to keep saying it on every single video I do. The fact that Eddie Howe, with this amount of injuries, is still chasing European football this season is class. And let's shout it from the rooftop. So we should. And it's in our hands. It is in our hands, but it's still very nervous.
I don't get nervous, but I'm starting to get a bit shaky, you know? I mean, I'm a little bit weak.
But what I want to talk about on this video, which is a conversation, as I've mentioned at the start, that I'm not seeing anywhere on Twitter, on Facebook, in the papers, anywhere, on YouTube, is Anthony Gordon, absolute mainstay of everything we've done this season. For me, probably he's our player of the season, probably he's our most improved player. He's basically just mopping up every single Newcastle award he can, the absolute Scouse Prince that he is. But we have also welcomed back our £35 million man, Harvey Barnes, back into our team, which is great. Absolutely great. I was over the moon when we signed Harvey Barnes in the summer. But what I am worried about now is that we have two players who both need to play on the left-hand side moving forward. And I know what you're going to say, so I'm going to iron out the things first that you might come back at me with in the comments. Anthony Gordon can play on the right-hand side. And Eddie Howe's trying that with him now. But what I found most interesting about Anthony Gordon's overlap interview with Gary Neville, if you haven't watched it, watch it. Really good interview. Who knew Anthony Gordon was such a deep man who likes to put himself in dark rooms and meditate? I certainly didn't. What he says on that video when asked the question from Gary Neville is that his favourite position is left wing. And yes, he talks about the fact that he played centre forward at the Euros, the Under-21 Euro tournament, which they won, and he won player of the tournament. Great. He's played on the right-hand side more recently for Eddie Howe to bring Harvey Barnes in. But when I look at Anthony Gordon's attributes and I listen to what he thinks his attributes are, he talks quite heavily about testing the fullback down the byline. If they want to have him on the byline, then he'll cut in. If they try and get him to cut in, he'll do the byline. And yes, on the right-hand side, some of them qualities work. But in terms of cutting inside and getting a shot off, that's where Anthony Gordon's strengths lie. And that's where we've seen most of his success this season. Even when he came in for England, which was amazing to see. And I thought he did pretty well. It was from the left-hand side, it wasn't the right. And I know he's an adaptable player, which makes him such an asset. And God knows Eddie Howe likes an adaptable player. I think his left side is his strongest side. And then let's talk about Harvey Barnes. Now, Harvey Barnes, we have not seen enough of him to really talk about him in depth in a Newcastle shirt. So what I'm going to do is talk about the stats from Harvey Barnes' time in Leicester and the 3-4 years before that. Harvey Barnes has never really played a right-hand side role for Leicester. And some Newcastle fans might not know that. I wasn't sure until I ran the numbers. He hasn't. Just to clarify, some of these images I'm going to put on the screen now are from 2019 to the summer of 2023, just before we signed him, before he'd really had any injury problems, which sums up this season when he broke that toe that was the longest broken toe ever. But look at some of the graphics that I'm sharing here. So this one here, although there's a million shapes on the screen, these are all the chances, goals, shots that he has contributed in that time for Leicester City. There's a pattern with where they are. This next graphic is exactly where his ball carries were. Look how, and by the way, there's not many of them. I'm going to touch on why that makes him a very different player in a second, but look what side of the pitch they are on. The left-hand side. Now let's look at his key passes and assists. Look where they are all coming from, the majority of them. Down the left-hand side, and these aren't stats taken over 15 matches. These are stats taken over years before he signed for us. He is not a right-hand-sided player. But Harvey Barnes, and I know he's coming in for criticism after his performance at Palace, where we were all bad, can I just say. And maybe Sheffield United, when he came on, the game was done by then. I felt a bit sorry for him because that was a game set up for Barnes to get some goals. But Palace, lots of people very quickly on social media were questioning him again. I'm not so sure on Barnes. I just think that's unfair. We underestimate how long it takes a player to come back from a full injury like what he's had. And can I just say, one of the first proper injuries he's had in his career. It's going to take time to bed back into this team. Harvey Barnes hasn't even had time to learn Newcastle United and learn the fullback behind him and learn Bruno and learn Isak. That's all going to come with matches. And the level of quality we signed in Harvey Barnes, I will share on the screen now. Look at some of the company for goals and assists per 90 over the last 4 years. Look who he's around. Mr. Mo Salah, Mr. Jota from Liverpool. Some really, really big players up there. That's the player that we signed. And that's why, in my opinion, Eddie Howe decided to go for him rather than James Maddison. I don't buy that James Maddison turned us down. I've never really bought into that. I think he wanted a player that suited his system a little bit more. To sign James Maddison would have meant a total shift in our midfield. Where do you put Bruno? Where does Joe Linton fit in? That explosive, intense style wasn't quite a James Maddison mould. Barnes was Eddie Howe's man, and I like how he likes to get a shot off. But again, with that left-hand side in mind, can we really afford to have a £35 million substitute? Because I do think, and I'm going to keep shouting this, that they are both left-hand sided players. Now, yes, does this concern me how we can fit both into the team? It does, I cannot lie. But that being said, if we find ourselves in a position to have both as the left-hand side, if they are such different footballers, Anthony Gordon takes a man on, takes two men on, he's explosive. Barnes is not that player. His ball carries, the graphic I shared earlier, are quite low. Yes, he does carry the ball, and his stats when he does are quite good in terms of him taking the ball on and making a chance from it. That shows that he's quite smart at how he does it. But what we know about Harvey Barnes, he's a man who likes to be on the shoulder. He's very, very different. He will always be looking for the pass. And I think Barnes with Bruno could be a lovely combination. And Tonali, when he comes back, who likes to spot a pass as well. All of the players that we have, when we do have a fully fit squad, Barnes can be useful in that. But what I am seeing here is two players who will be fighting for that same position, because Anthony Gordon, I really hope I'm proved wrong. Really, can I just say that on this video? Of Anthony Gordon being a real asset for Newcastle United on the right-hand side of midfield. But I think, and he said it in interviews, that's not where Anthony Gordon's best position is. And Harvey Barnes only has one position. Eddie Howe's been proven to change players and really work with players on mixing up their playing style. Who knows what he can do with Mr. Barnes. But I just felt that this was quite a thought-provoking conversation about where these two fit into this Newcastle team and whether it is going to be a case of them both in the side or it is going to be a case of one coming in for the other and rotation in matches. I like what we've seen with Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson in the last year or so. It's not a bad problem to have, can I just say. And anyone already being a little bit sceptical of Harvey Barnes, I hope this video has maybe reminded you that when he gets fully up to speed, he hasn't had a bad career so far at Leicester City before we brought him in. We might see a bit more of that. And who could forget that absolute screamer against West Ham? Harvey Barnes! Let us know your thoughts below, Newcastle fans, because as we go into these last few key matches against Burnley, Brighton, Brentford and Man United, it's maybe a problem that Eddie Howe has to think on quite quickly. Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, what that little subscribe, Newcastle fans. Give us a little likey Lou. There will be more lives coming, match previews and match reactions, and you don't want to miss any of that. And of course, Black and White Banter is across all social media. Thank you very much for watching. Let's hope for a barnstorming finish to the season, eh? I had to. How are you, lads?